Every generation gets the chance to shape the world. But the challenges faced today are becoming more complex with the pace of economic, social, and technological change. The world is defined by the people who live in it. So we believe the solution is to develop responsible, entrepreneurial, and skilled young leaders today who will make a positive impact for our future. Since 1948, we've been providing young people with practical leadership experiences across the world, where they have the freedom to fail and the chance to overcome challenges they face. A space where they can discover what really matters to them and realize their potential for the future. We give young people a chance to see the world, because if you can see it, then you can start to understand it. And if you understand it, then you can start to change it. For over 70 years, we've provided more than 1 million young people with life-changing opportunities together with like-minded organizations. But we can't stop now. Because only when we create more of these leadership stories together will we truly see a remarkable impact on the world. History has shown us what just one great leader can do. So imagine what a billion great leaders could do. This is why we do what we do for youth.
Aiboan, good evening, everybody. So nice to join you on a fabulous, chilly Saturday evening. We're here to speak to you on a timely discussion of Let's Reboot webinar series to reach the unreached. On behalf of AIESEC in University of Perera, near Sri Lanka, we warmly welcome you to the second series of Adapt to Face the Economic Change of the Decade. We have those of you who are streaming us here at home as well as overseas. We'd like to say hello to all of you. Thank you for joining us on our live stream. We certainly hope you're staying safe. But if you are experiencing bad weather, bad signals, we'd like to inform you that this session has been recorded. So if you want to watch it, it's on the Facebook AIESEC page. You can watch it later. But if you are, safe and watching, stay tuned till the end because you're going to love today's conversation. Now, on to the main subject for today. After many weeks of lockdown, tragic loss of life, after shuttering of much of the global economy, the term radical uncertainty is the best way to describe this historic moment that we are all facing. The normal economy is not coming back. And we all know that the economic financial carnage wrought by the pandemic could leave deep scars, not just here in Sri Lanka, but globally as well. Will businesses reopen? Will our jobs come back? What will happen to our jobs? Will travel become normal? Will the flood of money from the central bank and the governments, will it be enough to prevent the deep and lasting recession, or will things get worse? The pandemic will definitely worsen the economy in any country. We all know that. They will remain reversible through a major surgery. Conditions such as the circular stagnation, there will be low productivity growth, a lack of private investment returns and near deflation, but also it will deepen people where you can stay risk averse and save more for the pandemic, which is something that will be persistently weaken demand and also bring in more innovation as well. Our topic today resonates with all of these subjects that we're hoping to talk today is on adapt to face the economic change of the decade. And we have a fantastic set of panelists who are joining us today in discussion who will share some great insights, great discussions, and good talk is what we promise to deliver you, where you can take home and prepare yourselves as for the coming days. Now, we'd like to also take your questions at the end of the session. I will make the command on that, and you can drop in your questions at the comment section on Facebook. Now, let's kick off the session by introducing you to our panelists for today. Joined us is a gentleman who covers 29 years of experience in apparel and textile industry with 19 years directly in manufacturing experience in the textile industry. Prior to joining Teejay, he was the head of planning at Slimline Pannala, and he holds a master's in business administration from the University of Lincoln. Masters in Manufacturing Management from the University of Colombo, and a Diploma in Business Administration from the University of Colombo as well. He was further trained in Six Sigma Black Belt at the National Institute of Business Management, Sri Lanka, and the Leadership Development Program at the Center of Creative Leadership in Singapore. We're joined by Mr. Pubudu de Silva, and we also would like to introduce you to our next panelist. He counts over decades of experience within Sri Lanka Telecom and we have seen him galvanizing the organization at the helm of a significant and strategic leadership across many departments, as well as serving on the board of directors of SLT Services since 2007 and as the CEO of SLT since June 2018. A chartered engineer of the Engineering Council UK, Institution of Engineering and Technology UK, and a master's graduate from the University of Moderator in Electronics and Telecommunications Engineering, and has brought his passion from the field and deeper technical understanding to his 24 years of experience at Sri Lanka Telecom. Very honored to have with us the Chief Executive Officer of Sri Lanka Telecom, Mr. Kiththi Perera. And we also have with us the Director of Operations at MAS Kreeda. He counts over 18 years of experience at MAS Holdings. He's a chartered textile engineer as well as a chartered marketer, and he's actively involved in supporting the youth with career development and networking people, and also very passionate in product development as well. We'd like to very warmly welcome Mr. Yasas Samarakoon as well. Good evening, gentlemen. How is everyone doing?
Good.
Everyone well?
Excellent. Yes, very good.
All right. So we have a set of viewers, very young, robust, energetic viewers who are watching us right now, and they're going to all throttle in with some good, valuable questions. But before that, I'm going to start with mine by asking first from Mr. Yasas Samarakoon, who is the Director Technical and Head of Nirmana Product Development Center at MAS Holdings. Yasas, COVID, we know now, is it's a virus now, okay? And everyone says it's just a normal thing. They want us to get immune to this system, get used to it, get on with our lives. And how do you see this being affected in the working aspect? And how do you see it being affected in the economy? What kind of changes can we do in order to adapt to this situation?
Okay, Sharon, it's a fact now, already proven. It's a pandemic because we never experienced such thing in before. So it's a completely new experience for everyone in this world. No matter who you are, the pandemic is impacted severely. If you look at when this started, the lockdown started from the country by country. So people doesn't have understanding of what does it mean. So your offices are closed, your supermarket and all the cities are getting closed. How this continue? And it is days become weeks, weeks becomes months. So then the individuals, organizations start looking at how to still operate as usual. But it's a difficult thing. So slowly, the work from home, those practices are kick-started. So very few, if you look at our country, very few can do work from home. Majority has to connect with the either machine or product or physical presence is important. But at least as a country, Sri Lanka, we have inculcated that seed of work from home with this pandemic. If you look at 3 months before when this pandemic started versus today, work from home becoming very popular. It has both advantage and disadvantage, but it becoming a norm. And as you correctly said, this will never go back. So this will stay with our day-to-day life in future. It's a matter of us to form it further, become as a norm. If you look at work from home or work content, the work quality, so disturbance will be there even at office. If you look at, the days spent you at work, maybe 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock, how much productive? So good 30 to 40% are not productive. If you really look at. So in that sense, without traffic, without transport, you can spend that meaningful time from home if you do the same thing. But only disturbance is we have very limited number of job can do that. It is a matter of once the IT, telecommunication infrastructure set in, so this will grow. And also, no one has expected this at the time of this happening. If we are expected, we would have been prepared for it. But in future, everyone get used to this, prepare for it. Now, physical infrastructure, working from home, for me personally, with 2 young kids, it's difficult. So then I never thought of have a kind of my office space at home. But in future, that is one thing, to create your own workspace at home, as well as the infrastructure, having good internet connection. Because we had a bad experience during the last 3 months when we are working. We have extensively worked. It brings up a good experience for shape it for future. If you look at attire, what happened to our formal, smart casuals? So if this trend continues, that become obsolete. So there will be a new trend of to wear something more kind of athleisure, kind of sports looking attire while we are working from home when we are switch on the videos. So again, this is not relevant to everyone, but people will prepare, organization will prepare as much as in future if such thing comes, or even without that kind of pandemic, how to make and normalize this. With our new norm, work from home will be definitely a kind of part of it. If you look at another thing, Industry 4.0 and digital transformation. I know many corporations struggled to digital transform, struggle to get into Industry 4.4, but this whole pandemic pushed us to the deep dive and experience this. So I think even accidentally, so this will, what we have experienced during this crisis will kind of further accelerate whole digital transformation globally. Many corporations, many industries, and Industry 4.4. You asked me what is the impact for the economy. If majority start working from home, big corporation officers will start thinking, do we really need to spend money, massive money on infrastructure, having a building offices in big cities, which is extremely expensive. So they will kind of move into kind of have a space only for the customer interaction, where the back-end office work employees to do from their homes. So that will be create massive cost saving for the organization, as well as individual enjoy, because they don't have to spend hours of traffic, right? Transportation, so they can have a more work-life balance. So I think new norm will be very much interesting in that aspect. The less movements will reduce less consumption. So if we travel to office daily, there will be a fuel. We know during the pandemic, fuel price, crude oil price came down to almost like a negative price, right? So likewise, the consumption will, even our expenditures, because sometimes we are doing a lot of nice to have things. So all these will be people will start think. So they will really, really spend what exactly they're supposed to have to do. Nice to have things will go off, right? So that helps, because they will scare if such thing happens, because people has realized how people lose their jobs, how organization came up with the pay cuts, right? So with all these situations, So people has already start feeling of that difficult times. So they will carefully spend the money. So with this less money circulation, whether it is a good thing or bad thing for economy. So definitely less money circulation impact the slowdown on economy. We know if you look at America, they are the most consumption of the commodities. So they spend a lot, eat a lot. Whenever they are going to do it's a big, right? So that American behavior help us the world economy to be rolling, right? Because they're not, now with this current situation, millions of people are got unemployed within a few weeks. So definitely American economy's impact and the rest of the economy's impact will impact the whole world. The whole supply chain will impact through this. And lastly, on economic impact, I would mention the over-dependence of China. Knowingly or unknowingly, we were over-dependent on China. It was a fact, but everyone's scared to do a change. At least Trump started talking about that, but everyone scared to unplug it, right? But with this whole experience during the pandemic, people start thinking differently. If you look at even Japan is a country putting a lot of money to reinstate their companies, bring back to Japan from China. So likewise, if I touch base what changes can be done in order to adapt the situation, strong infrastructure on the internet. Internet already become a commodity, right? And also the solutions like pay as we used, and consumer can demand it through the app, and then the reload happens. So all are the kind of best movements we are seeing in the whole IT infrastructure. People, organization will encourage more and more people to work from home. Surrounding norms will create, office governance will create to support that. At the moment, not. Very few organizations have pioneered on working from home to support work-life balance and change their governance. But this will be more accelerated in future. I think biggest thing is how do we convert this as opportunity? Organization will kind of think twice when they spend money on the office space in future. So that they can use meaningfully to reduce the service price or product price, as well as taken care of their employees well. So the more importantly, mind change and believe on this. That is important, because I think it has proven world will go into this new way of working. No point of kind of struggling this. We have to get ready with our mind very clear. How can we be part of it? How can we believe that, right? So our future will going to reshape this way. If you start hesitate and if you start kind of demoralize, okay, we will not have what we had in earlier. So that's wrong. So you will get struggle. I think if your mind get changed, if you believe that how to come out of much stronger, each and every individual, if they can think how to come out this stronger, that should be the expectation. So then it is much easier, and be a part of this change, be a part of this change, be a part of defining new norms. If I summarize the whole piece, Sharon asked, prepare for reality of change and work in life. Understand the impact to the economy and the change coming in economy, and lead the norms, be a part of economic change, and take advantage of this change.
Yasas, thanks for that very elaborative thoughts, insights shared, especially given the fact that what's happening globally as well. And also there are pros and cons to it that you shared with us. And a lot of misunderstanding today has taken place where why is my salary being cut? These are performances, what I did in the previous year. I deserve to have it. These kind of various conversations are taking place in institutions, especially in the government sector as well as the private sector. It's like so cluttered that people want to move on with their lives, but we're stuck literally, and we need to reinvigorate ourselves and move forward, which is where I'm going to move on to Mr. Kiththi Perera by asking, now countries like Maldives, we've seen so many Sri Lankans returning back to our country. Hotels have shut down, and we see that these are some of the major contributors to our economy, and them losing their jobs, this has directly impacted the country's economy, and we see a massive threat in the overall aspect. I'm just taking Maldives as an example, but there are loads of other countries. Mr. Kiththi Perera, how do we see this? Isn't this the threat that it will impact on Sri Lanka in a very big manner?
Thanks, Aaron. And more than a threat, I would like to classify it as a challenge. And challenge is something that, you know, if you organize and if you look at it properly, we can face it. And so before I go into the impact of the job market, I would like to elaborate more on the impacted industries. So it's worth that, you know, even the previous speaker also touched a little bit in few areas. I would like to classify the impacted industries into three main categories. One category is highly impacted industries. Then the second one is moderately impacted, and the third is obviously the everybody like to hear, that is no impact or positively impacted industries. So what are the industries which are very severely impacted? So if you really look at tourism, as you very correctly said, you brought up with this example at Maldives, you know, it's a largely economy driven by the tourism. And in Sri Lanka, of course, there is a significant impact. You all know, you know, it is again one of the major income source is coming from tourism. So there is one industry, what we see today is suffering a lot, and people who are working there, you know, there are pay cuts, and some of these hotels and the resorts, they have basically sent half of them, their staff home, and they all are struggling to survive. And we have only one airline company, but as an industry in the global space, airline is suffering a lot. And also the global shipping industry, and also the automobile and automotive industries, and also the apparel industry to that extent. We have our colleague from MAS as well. I'm sure he will touch a little bit more on that area. So those are, I would classify as heavily impacted industries. But what are the other industries which are moderately impacted? If you really look at the beverage, the chemicals, the manufacturing, and the media, oil and gas, these are slightly, you know, the moderately impacted. So they are in the middle. But what are the other industries which are not impacted or very lightly impacted? Of course, the industry which I represent, Telecom, IT, the digital startups. And if you really look at some of the transportation, because people are at home, you know, the industries are struggling to deliver their goods to home. So transportation is a sort of industry that we can really look at. If they bring it to the right context, there is the big chance for them to survive and do business really well. And also pharmaceutical industries, the food industry, and those are the industries which are really doing in this pandemic situation. So I think when you look at these industry segments which are impacted differently, we can understand how that impact the job market. So coming back, because I know there are a lot of university undergraduates and the students are listening to our conversation. So if you really look at, I would suggest a few skills and competencies that you need to develop if you are really looking for a job in the post-pandemic situation. So adaptability and flexibility is one major thing, because what we have been doing over a period of time is we go to office, we meet the people, we have our regular discussions, meetings, we meet our clients, customers, we do business transactions almost daily basis, we close business, and that's going to be very challenging in this situation. So how do you adapt? And if you really look at our workplaces are likely to change. And with it, the skills that company require, typically I would say 8 job skills that we need to really strongly look at. The adaptability, because there will not be jobs for life in the future if this pandemic situation will continue, and we need to keep on changing, keep on adapting to different situations, and also we need to be a little bit more flexible. We can't have fixed working hours, and the moment you wake up, you need to be with the device and see what's really going on, how you collaborate with your colleagues, business partners, and so on. And to do this, of course, you need to be a little bit tech savvy. And tech savviness is one important thing. You need to be a little bit more familiar with the technologies like artificial intelligence, the big data, the Internet of Things, virtual and augmented reality, the RPA, and sort of technologies that would be really useful for you to fit into a job in this post-pandemic situation. And also, it's very important that you need to be very creative and innovative, because we have already seen the importance of the creativity and innovation during the pandemic. The business that have been able to come up with ways to deliver services virtually, what healthcare segment does today. And also, if you really look at the Mercedes, they very quickly shifted from Mercedes Formula One to racing cars to innovative breathing aids. That's something, a major paradigm shift as far as their product portfolio is concerned. So we need to be creative, we need to be innovative, and we need to cater for the situation. So then the fourth point is the data literacy. Data literacy is an important thing, because the digital era, which we consider as the fourth industrial revolution, data is the critical asset. So we need to see the value of data. We need to find ways to monetize data. We need to widely use this data, share this data. Then only our society is going to be benefited. That is the fourth point. And of course, among all those things, we need to develop our critical thinking. The critical thinking, is a very essential skill in a global economy where, we see the global economy rebuilds from the damage done by COVID-19. And there you need, so in the recovery process, you need to develop your critical thinking to come out of this situation. And as I very early said in my the conversation, the challenge. So we need to take it as a challenge more than a threat. So when you challenge, so one skill that you need to develop is a critical thinking based on the information and data available. And you need to do a deep analysis as to, how you develop, how you rebuild your business from this pandemic or the disastrous situation. Of course, a couple of other things, the digital and the coding skills, and also the leadership is very important, because your bosses are not around, your colleagues are not around. So sometimes you're working from home. You need to be a passionate worker with very strong leadership skills. Professionals, how you bring the best practices and inspire teams, as well as encourage collaboration, because collaboration, it's not going to happen in a meeting table. Collaboration happens over, this is a classic example. We are having this webinar session. This is a collaborative platform. We share our thoughts, views in this post-pandemic situation and try to come out of this situation. So these are some of the thoughts and views which I can share with you, Cheryl.
Thank you, sir. Those are very valuable insights being shared. And I think the last point where you said about leadership, I think you've got to respect your job and whatever you are doing and be up on it in whatever you want to achieve, because it's a network that we all get together in order to overcome this situation. And very rightly said, it is definitely a challenge. How do you convert the threat to a challenge is what our way forward is. But going by with this situation now, if I may ask Mr. Pubudu de Silva, So now we're getting a bit relaxed. We're going on to a little roster basis to get on with our lives. Since things are easing off a little, will Sri Lanka's economy recover, or what sort of effect would the global economy cause on Sri Lanka's economy if we look at it in a big picture?
Well, this is an unprecedented situation. Now, if you look at the things, change from pre-COVID to today, you all know how things have changed. So even this webinar is a reason of the change. So in a situation like that, it's very difficult to predict. Even though you predict future, the accuracy is questionable. So if I touch on some of the data Export Development Board has shared in 2020, is expecting 42% reduction compared to previous year. Previous year, we achieved $18.5 billion US, and this year is expecting 10.75. So it's really good if we can manage with 42% reduction. There are so many sectors is impacting as a result of COVID. Now, agriculture sector, manufacturing and service industry. Kiththi and Yasas both touch on some of the areas impacted already. But if you look at without a solid foundation of agriculture and manufacturing, I don't think economy can sustain. So therefore, to sustain the economy, improvement of agriculture and manufacturing is essential. That is why countries like Japan even identified the importance of manufacturing and going to reinstate some of the manufacturing plants in Japan. And also over-dependency of China or one country is very high risk. So today, people are talking about within the region, a supply chain solution, within the region, a manufacturing solution, within the country. So that is why its entire supply chain, the solution is important to build a strong economy. If I touch on manufacturing sector, I think manufacturing sector took a massive blow during COVID-19 due to pushback of orders, order cancellations, extended credit periods, and then in lockdown situation, there were so many difficulties to get people into work because of curfew, etc. So that temporary, we came into standstill of the manufacturing. Before spread of COVID-19 in Sri Lanka, Sri Lanka had a tough time to get raw material from China because China had a COVID-19 impact. Apparel sector has taken 82% reduction during month of April compared to same month in the previous year. So 82%, which is a huge hit when you look at it. The prediction is that we will lose $1.5 billion worth of revenue between March to June because of coronavirus. So this is as a result of decline of demand from Europe and US markets. US and Europe market has crashed, and we don't see a demand from them. And the demand, what we have been exporting into US and Europe is 57% of our entire export has been exporting to US and Europe, 27% to US as a single country, and then 30% to Europe. As Yasas mentioned, tourism took the biggest hit. So now we don't see tourists at all. So Sri Lanka's plan is to reopen tourism sector during month of August. We still have 2 months. We don't know how far we will successful with COVID-19 because it's so unpredictable. Whatever we predicted 2 months back is different to what we see today. So even though tourists come to Sri Lanka, they may have to carry a certificate either from their government or reputed agency. So these are some of the critical questions that we need to look at before we bring tourism into the country. The good news is that the World Health Organization has declared Sri Lanka is on track with regard to contain the COVID-19 outbreak. So even though European countries were hit hard by COVID-19, most of countries are resuming their journey to a normal level now. That's a good news. So even the US are opening their states gradually, but the new situation with riots and various things, you never know which way that this will go. So what do we do in a situation like this? So I think the best is to improve our manufacturing industry. Number one. Number two, look at what options that we have. There are many changes we bring into business. Now today, if you look at apparel business, 50% of that business is coming from PPE. So even our plants, we have changed to PPE type of business or the products. And with that, we have learned new skill. So the adaptability is key in a situation like this. Sri Lanka is one of the few countries to keep tea auctions during COVID-19 period. Having an online platform made Sri Lanka tea more accessible to world demand has grown. The other factor which is affecting, actually Kiththi also touched on that, world unemployment rate. US unemployment rate has increased up to 14.7%. This was below 5%. And even in the recession era, this didn't go up to this level. Europe unemployment rate has increased to 7.4% in March 2020. UK is doing reasonably okay. Just only 0.1% has increased. That is not a big problem. The other thing which is going in our favor is US-China trade war. So that trade, because of the trade war, I think there will be some business breakaway from China. We should be able to take the advantage of it. Most of PPE related manufacturing that we are doing today as a result of that. And also, I think even the other countries have identified the challenges that they face with China. And because of that over-dependency, they also wanted to reduce dependency of China. That will go in our favor. So these are some of the global economic dynamics which can affect positively and negatively.
Thank you, Mr. Pubudu de Silva, for taking us through those very valuable information and especially statistics from how we are moving on in predictions as to, and also sharing insights of other countries as well. What I particularly was interested is during this pandemic time or during this lockdown, we had within the region, we had a new boom when it comes to online transactions as well as vendors. It's funny, some people tell us we didn't know who our neighbor was. but now we have time to interact and get to know who they are. Then there are vendors who we wanted to supply, our very own Sri Lankan local producers. We wanted to put them on the spot and bring them to, support them as a community, as well as enlighten them in their work front as well. But there is a question, if I may ask Mr. Kiththi Perera now, in your opinion, what's the importance of a small and medium enterprise based on the points that you gave, sir? In the recovery for the economy, what will happen to the SMEs? Your mic is mute.
Yes, SME, in my view, is the most helpless business segment in the country. Fortunately, we are coming out of this situation, and we can see the curfew is being lifted, and the people at least have some hope. But if you really look at the world and even in big economies like China, Europe, and North America, so in those countries, SME as a segment is really struggling. You know, SME is considered as the backbone of any economy, particularly in Sri Lanka. If you really look at the SME is the backbone. Why I say that? You know, if you really look at SMEs represent 75% of our enterprise segment, and that's the quite significant portion of our entire enterprise space. And then the 45% employments are from SME category. So there is, you know, half of the employments are almost from the SME category. Most importantly, the economy point of view, the contribution to GDP growth comes over 50% from SME. So I think these three indicators are fair enough to understand how important is this SME as a segment for a country like ours. So now, why I say they are the most helpless business segment in this country. If you look at the big enterprises, or to that extent, you know, they are well engaged with banks, with their partners, and customers know them very well. And even during the post-pandemic situation, the customers still can reach them, get their services through, you know, they also can invest. Some of them are ready with digital means and collaborative platforms. And most importantly, the people can order things online. You know, if you really look at Keels and Apico kind of a supermarket chain, and the people can still order things online. But if you really look at a SME, small SME in a suburb who is selling orchid plants, you know, how can they reach their customers? And how are they assisted by the banks and the other financial institutions? Even they are assisted, you know, in a situation like this, you can't expect a lot from the commercial banks, and rather they rely on microfinancing companies, you know, then their interest rate is a big question mark. How can they survive in a tough situation like this? So what we need to do? So we need to come up with certain solutions, you know, to support the SME as a business segment. What I believe is even under the National Digital Transformation Program, we were actually discussing sort of collaborative platforms which connect their customers, the banks, and also we can do their rating, you know, like crib rating, so that based on that, the banks can proactively offer them a short-term loan, a long-term loan, and also we can bring in the technology piece to connect their customers to make them, you know, if you really look at the SME, they don't have any IT staff. Their IT literacy is very low. So we need to support them. IT, telecom industry need to move forward and support them. If we try to get down the right technology piece for them, that will help them to connect their customers. So for example, I'll tell you one example. If you can introduce a simple e-commerce platform where they can onboard their products And through that, if they can reach their customers, that's a big relief. At least they can continue their business. Getting down the people to the workplace is a different challenge altogether. But still, you know, government in good way is offering a lot of options for people to report to their workplace without having a larger gatherings. Of course, in SMEs, you don't have so much of people, like 1,000, 2,000 of people, you know. SMEs, if you really look at, can be managed with even 10, 20, maximum of 50, 100 people. So that's the scale what we are talking. So again, the support of the technology is a very vital thing, you know. The connectivity is a critical aspect. Then on top of that, other hosted elements like the cloud computing, the artificial intelligence, the big data, you know, the fintech is a very important and essential item to keep, you know, connecting these financial institutions and, you know, to see the volume of transactions they do day by day basis, and thereby to understand their potential to grow. And that in turn will help the commercial banks to go and offer their sort of facilities, you know, that will be a great relief for a SME in this situation. So very challenging business segment, but if we all get together and support them, and even in a situation, you know, we are slowly recovering, I don't think the SME as a big business segment will not have a major impact to our economy. I think in that way, we are quite lucky.
And so I think we also should contribute to them because
Absolutely.
it's a hard work that's been brought by different communities as well. So thank you for sharing us that good insights again, once again, as to how the employment as well as the growth rate is coming from the SMEs. My next question will be to Mr. Pubudu de Silva. Now, this outbreak that has plunged the economy as well as the developing country, most of us, or most of the CEOs and most of the heads of organizations have looked at re-establishing the Sri Lankan economy. How do we work this out? Reinventing new strategies is what they're recommending. And then there are innovations and new strategies that has to come into play. What is your viewpoint on this, and what sectors do you think needs more attention when it comes to innovation with the ongoing process?
It's very difficult to say which sectors should focus more. I would say all sectors. Reason is every sector is important if you want to have, if you want to build a strong economy. So in this pandemic situation, people learn many things. We learn Microsoft Teams, Zoom, to various other ways to conduct our meeting, and also to lead business without our presence in the factories and offices. So as Yasas said, sometimes it's a big question whether you need corporate officers, whether you need non-operational staff, how much you can reduce. There are a lot of things that discovered because of this pandemic situation. So the other thing is, world demand has changed. Because of that, the change of the demand, we don't see things as normal. Until we see business as usual, we need to make certain changes to run meaningful business. So if you can do product innovation, what sort of product that you can run? And now that is what I was telling previously. We have changed our product into medical type of fabric manufacturing. And that's a completely different fabric. Even though it's weft knitted fabric, we have changed. And also we have looked at the dynamics of retail end, and some of the retailers are not doing well. I would say most of them. And online business has increased. A supermarket type of chains has increased. Now, what we need to do is look at these changes. These changes are significant, And based on these changes, we need to build our strategies. It can be short term. Until we see business as usual, I think we need to redefine our strategies, cater to new norm of the industry, because world has changed. With the change of the world, there are new norms. For this new norm, we need to cater to it. That is where the demand is. So the other thing is speed of response, speed of solution, speed of connecting with customers in different aspects. So then if we do that, we can take the opportunity of the current situation and branching into various type of business and survive in this financial tsunami, I would say, in this pandemic situation. We can use our expertise to capture current boom in various areas. That's the beauty of industries that we operate. And we can operate with the competition. Now, always we used to compete with each other in Sri Lanka. I think people should combine, make sure we survive in this situation. Survival is the game. So in order to do that, whatever the product innovation, then process innovation, service innovation, think out of the box to cater to customers. What I would say is, we all are in the same storm, but not in the same boat. So think out of the box, and I'm sure we will survive.
Thank you, Mr. Pubudu. And you brought a very good point of, most significantly, to the youth. And I think 90% of the followers who are watching us live stream on Facebook today are probably also in this whole battle of rethinking or bringing in new innovation as to how do we strategize ourselves, how do we go forward. Yasas, I think you have a lot of fans, as a lot of them dropped in their comments on Facebook saying that they're very happy to see you. And it seems like a very youth-oriented approach. And if I poise my question now on the importance of a youth factor, because this is a generation that we're looking at the way forward, and we all need new thinking, new alignments as to how we go forward in a new direction as well. What kind of innovations does the corporate world expect from the youth, according to your opinion, Yasas?
Thank you, Sharon. I will kind of formulate an answer since targeting the youth audience. And also I will look at the local aspect as well as the international aspect. Undoubtedly, when you look at big corporation, how they started is very small way. The strangers, those are those individuals who created such a big companies, are not came from such a big families, rich families. The money is always a problem. So the financing is always a problem, but somehow they have created great organizations. So, and also if you look at, we have seen during the last decade, a lot of startup companies. So young after their the studies, so rather than looking for employment, they look at their own business and start up new venture, right? So we have seen a kind of good trend in that. So all in all, that kind of give the kind of confidence youth can do a better job. Youth can do a better job. If you look at our Sri Lankan context for a youth, I think first has to understand what exactly we need, what our country is looking from you, right? In Sri Lankan context, our GDP is low. We are looking at a lot of foreign investments, right? So more than the local business where we can earn a lot of dollars. So that helps as a country. So for a youth who has done a primary education, secondary education, who are looking for employment, so good to look at this whole analyze bit and understand what my country need, what we are lacking as a country. how can we help with my new knowledge I acquired during the degree? And also we had a kind of island mindset. Sometimes we kind of restricted ourselves to within, rather go beyond. So with this whole pandemic situation created up an environment where you don't need to physically presence, right? So if you look at majority of, I would say roughly good 40%, 50% of my batchmates from Moderator University are all migrated. Majority are working in overseas, right? Is it the only option? So when you hardway complete the education, so then you feel you won't see the same kind of the life, quality of life here. So then they're looking at start migrating. But today you have a fabulous option, the global connect. So Google can acquire a person in Sri Lanka who can work from Sri Lanka, right? You don't need to look for a US visa to work for Google, right? So whole this pandemic will open up a massive opportunity for the youth, not to limit to Sri Lankan jobs, look at global jobs, right? So rather migration, you have a lot of opportunities in the global connect. Then capitalize what you are good at it. So each individual should know what is my strength, what are my weakness. I think Kiththi brought up a very valid point in this whole working from home culture. There is no boss at home. You become your own boss. Unless you are disciplined enough, right? People will take this into different level, different situation, which is not certainly good for the corporate, right? So when you're working from home, how you be still loyal, how you still governs by certain protocols, right? And also respect teamwork, the communication piece. So I think Kiththi brought a very valid point you should have in that aspect. So capitalize your strength, and especially those who have just completed their degrees from universities can take risk. So now in my case, I have a problem. I have 2 sons, young age, right, family. So I will look at certain things little differently. But you are just right after degree. You don't have that kind of social commitment, right? So you can try out many things, right? So sometimes it may fail, sometimes it may success. If it is success, it will be a great story. And youth has a hyper energy. You have energy to do different stuff. You need rather than working for sometimes the regular job, the employment. So you do it your own one, kind of motivate you. The energy you have will definitely support that. So then the whole innovation piece, the organization or cooperator as a country, we expect. Now, innovation should start from need. We have to create a need. We know a few decades back, we used to use the desktops. Then came laptops. Then came tabs. I think before the tabs, the mobile, right? So then in between laptops and the mobile also like a computer, there is a tab. So these companies has created need, right? Why you need so much of equipment to work? But I know people are using all 3, right? So brands have created that need. So likewise, the youth has to think when they are innovating, either it has to start from need, or we have to create a need. So there are very success stories in that aspect. And also, again, as I mentioned earlier, failing earlier is okay. especially you are a young graduate trying to do something with little money you have, right? You will put your 200% effort to get that right. If you do all the background work, research right? So you are not stepping into this small company, creating a small company blindly. You have to do your small analysis part, understand the market works for that particular opportunity you are looking at. So then there is a very limited chance to fail, right? I think, so this whole innovation piece, so you have to start with the risk also. So then, if you look at as a country, we never give a due respect to the agriculture, right? We expect farmers' son to continue the farming, but we will look for either be engineer, doctor, lawyer, right, like a white collar. But very few have been look at the kind of organized agriculture. I think with the whole pandemic has teach us a good lesson, importance of agriculture, being self-sufficient as a country, right? So today's this farmer's son doing farming doesn't work anymore. We need much more innovation in agriculture, much more investment. So there is a kind of youth has to motivate to getting into the agriculture, because that will help as a country to grow. Again, be an entrepreneur. As a culture, from the school days, either we want to be a doctor, lawyer, engineer, not an entrepreneur, not even a businessman, right? So whole the education system kind of pushes us to one set of jobs, focus on from the childhood. I think we have made a big mistake. At least now onwards, if you become a lawyer or doctor or engineer, you are finding only one employment. But if you create one entrepreneur, he will generate few more jobs to others, right? So I think in my mind, as I understood today in the world, if I understood correctly, entrepreneur is the kind of most important we have to motivate our youth to become more and more entrepreneurs rather than the standard jobs. Start a business, go international. So today, no one expects you to be your physical presence and work for international company like Google, Microsoft, not looking for someone who has a US visa to enroll for their employment. So think big, start small, establish, and then accelerate. So I think number one is you have to you shouldn't underestimate your capability, your strength, your ability. You can create a wonderful enterprise, right? So think big, but start small, because if you fail, still the impact is low. But if you try to start with a big investment, if something goes wrong, impact is high. So then doing small business, start small will give a massive opportunity, good opportunity for you to learn that. So then you won't fail in future. And then accelerate. And also very important, be humble. Sometimes we have seen when people are getting money, that humbleness goes away. We forget the background, where we came from, our roots, right? So like a discipline, the humbleness is very important. And also reinvest your money, your profit to make a bigger company. Continuous growth has to be kind of survival strategy of your organization. Then you keep growing. So during the pandemic, I was reading the book called Shoe Dog, who is the Nike founder, Phil Knight, how generate the Nike brand. Right? It's an amazing story. Each and every money he earned, reinvest. So bankers resist him because his cash level is low, because he has reinvest what he got to expand the further business. If I summarize, think global, look for global opportunities. Capitalize mindset change where physical presence is not required. This is a fabulous opportunity pandemic has created. Your physical presence is not required. You can connect digitally. Technology in agriculture, innovation in agriculture, large-scale farming will bring local aspect massive opportunity. To recognize Sri Lanka as a developed country, we need more and more youth to getting into international organizations. And more importantly, we need more and more international cooperation, Sri Lankan-owned international corporations. I think sometimes we may late, but if you start thinking today, you can make a difference. So thank you, Sharon.
Thank you, Yasas, also for giving a little bit of a boost in encouraging the importance of being humble. Those are human qualities that we need. We need humanity in a time of this period. And sometimes people tend to they forget when they get on with the rat race. Mr. Pubudu, and to all our viewers who are watching us right now, if you just tuned in, you can send in your questions. We're happy to take them. We'll be with you for the next half an hour or 20 minutes, or you can tell us continue more, and then we'll do so. Mr. Pubudu, I'm going to ask you the next question. Now, there are hidden opportunities that have risen, and especially I love the fact that vendors have looked at it as a different aspect. How do we reach out? We have so many people who have got online when it comes to distribution as well. What do you see as these hidden opportunities? How we can utilize them as a long-term benefit, Mr. Pubudu Silva?
Well, don't know how long this will continue. During this situation, as I said earlier, we need to look at the opportunities. Opportunities can be in different forms. For example, due to China-US trade war, there can be some business breakaway from China is moving out, so that we can grab it. And also, there are other countries who are competing with us, Vietnam, Bangladesh, India. So we have to be mindful of the competition as well. So at one point, US-China trade deal was coming into a agreement and nearing to an end. But suddenly that has escalated to a different level. Today, they are talking about double tariff, more than 200 billion US dollars on Chinese goods. So this is one of the opportunity is coming in our way, but we need to look at what business we are good at. How do we capitalize it? And take some of those. As I said earlier, without improving agriculture and manufacturing, I don't think we can have a strong economy. So in order to do that, we have to invest in these areas. We need to protect local manufacturing entities, encourage and support those industries, and also curtail non-essential imports that will reduce trade deficit, etc. So in this situation, one thing that we learn is inventory. You have huge inventory, that's money. So today we have inventory, but without orders. So things can change after COVID. Now, what do we do with that? It would have been better if we had lean manufacturing. So I think slowly we should move into these aspects. And the other thing is cash flow management. To survive in this situation with extended credit period, inventory, I think we need to manage our cash flow properly and effectively. So if you do that, you will survive. As you all know, some of the companies in US, UK already filed for Chapter 11. That's a current business scenario. Now, some more to go. To avoid moving into chapter 11 and surviving this situation, I think most important thing is look for new opportunities. That those opportunities are unique into your industry, your company, because you are into different level, different segments of apparel. For example, it can be activewear, it can be intimates. So there are opportunities in all these segments. As I mentioned earlier, online, it could be Amazon, it could be supermarket chain. So there are enough and enough business we can shift on. So we need to identify these and move on. But the important thing is these are unique to industries and the companies. So each company should look at short-term measures and what business is available in the market and how do we pitch into that. So those are the important things.
Thank you, Mr. Pubudu. And I think we should also prepare ourselves how to manage another crisis if another crisis comes over with this pandemic, because it's also, given the circumstances, you never know, natural disasters, all of this can take place. But recently we have seen a huge interest when we speak of curtailing non-essential imports and inventory. A country's education system has completely transformed. We know that the online teachers are complaining that they don't have a break. However, the schools continued with whatever the aspect that they are doing, and the direct correlation with its economical system has completely changed. We've seen a significant change from the traditional education system to what we are facing right now, everyone being on different streams and platforms. How will this transition affect the corporate world? As an expert in the corporate world, Mr. Kiththi Perera, I would like to ask you this in relation, what kind of advice would you like to give to the youth when it comes to innovation and this whole transformation to the education sector? I see it as a very positive aspect, but it seems rather challenging as well, because we're all very used to our little open the book and memorize and study and write the exam paper, and now we have to do this all online.
Well, interesting question, and you know, actually, frankly speaking, at this moment, we are focusing on key industry verticals. One is the healthcare, other one is the education. Because in this country, in our country, we have a very strong education system, and every parent want to give the best education to their kids and the children. That's a great thing, unlike other countries. So how we facilitate this? So as corporate entities, particularly a corporate represent in telecommunications and IT to provide connectivity has a huge role to play. And then you ask the question, the role of other corporates. Of course, you know, I don't think the people, the students in the city and also students who are from high income families will have an issue in keeping the connectivity, touch with their teachers is a big issue. But if you go to rural, you look at a very rural school where the students come all the way kilometers way down from their homes to attend their school. They don't have connectivity. Connectivity is still a very luxury thing for them, you know, to go online and continue their education, which we see in the city students or the rather in high income families in and around the main cities. So this is the challenge. So we had a detailed discussion even with the education ministry on how we overcome this situation. So a couple of ideas I would like to, you know, share, particularly with youth. I think youth can cooperate and collaborate with these initiatives in big ways, because, you know, youth, we see they are very innovative. They have a lot of skills and competencies, particularly when it comes to content development, which is a very important aspect, because for teaching and learning, we need to have our own content, because students, they learn their education in 3 languages, the Sinhalese, English and Tamil. So we need to create content in all these different media. And also, just by creating the content and hosting it in a learning management system, letting that to access, the students won't help solve the issue. You need the touch of teacher. So how you bring in this touch connection? Because the student who has been in the classroom talking to their favorite teachers, they don't want to lose their teachers overnight, right? But they like to access different content, but students prefer to keep connected with the teacher, while how they look at this content, the teachers and create value by looking at this content, and on top of this content, so the teacher bringing his or her own style, own teaching skills. The students when they are watching, when they are listening to the lesson, they don't miss that their favorite teacher. But how you do this? So the student is there, the teacher is there, and there are a variety of contents. So how you do it? It's a bit of issue. But today, in the high income families, the most popular teaching technique is what we do right now. On Zoom, they continue their teaching and learning. But what we believe as responsible corporates, so we need to establish a collaborative platform where teachers, students, content providers, the education ministry, the schools, universities, they all can collaborate and create content. There are a lot of tools available, and textbook is the key instrument which teachers use to teach the lessons to the students. Now there are a lot of supporting content created through animations, 3D media, and a lot of videos, and so many different the artificial intelligence is being used. You answer the questions, and also some of the latest technologies like hologram kind of technologies are also being used to visually see some of the function of the heart, the function of the brain, and sort of things. So all these things are really good. So how you bring the teacher in between all these different variety of contents, and continue teachers to use this different content and continue their teaching to the students without losing this connectivity between their favorite teachers. So there is I'm talking about the school education, but when it comes to the university education and higher education, it is entirely different. They can straight away go online. They are quite mature, they are grown, they understand, they don't have language barriers. So they are very familiar and they can easily adapt it. But when it comes to the school education, I think it's very important that we need to continue the touch. They don't want to lose their relationship, touch, their favorite teachers. So we need to think of a collaborative platform, how you bring in the content in a way that teachers and students will continue their relationship, their teaching, and of course the content organized here and there will be a value for them to teach much more effectively. And the same can be continued even when we recover from the pandemic situation. This is going to be a new way of learning, a new way of teaching, and that will largely adapt to our society. And even in the school, after schools, all these techniques can continue without any issue. So that is the kind of thinking that we need to bring in.
Thank you, Mr. Kiththi Perera. I'm sure our viewers who are watching will also want to know, is there good strategies, or what's our future looking for data as well? But I'll save that question for another time because we've got just 10 minutes more to go, and I'm taking a question which was sent by our viewers who are watching. Sachin Dev, thank you for your question. This question is to Mr. Pubudu. How do the training and development help reshaping the economy after a pandemic situation, especially for different sectors, different training and development activities that will boost up the economic crisis? Can you give your opinion on this area, please? Sachin Dev, thank you for asking us that question. Mr. Pubudu?
Thank you. It's a good question. Basically, in this situation, people have learned new skill. That is how we are doing even this session today. As a result of that, with that, even most of the training programs, what we have done is we have converted into virtual training programs. And also during this period, what we did is we had virtual touch base with our people and explain the situation and what our game plan is, etc. So training and development, what I would think is essential, but depend on how enthusiastic you are to get the training. You will lead into that. Depend on your desire. What happens is, even though we provide training, sometimes people not attending. That's a reality of it. So it depends on individuals. One, two, it has gone down slightly compared to our usual in a normal business scenario. So I would suggest that definitely we should encourage people to do more training and development, understand new skills required for current situation.
And I think, sir, mental stability, you have to be in a positive mind to move forward. That's one of the areas that a lot of people have been discussing, because sometimes you're dragged down to just be lethargic, be lazy, and then you bring in your ideas and then you sit and wait till this is being accepted somewhere. So that's not the case. And I think we need to move forward in what we are doing. As for final thoughts, can I get all the panelists to share their views on this final question, considering the different scopes of telecommunication, apparel industries? The public's opinion is that the apparel industries, vast majority should be working in premises, while in the telecommunication industry, the majority can engage in remote working. What's your viewpoint on this? What's the extent of it? How do we see it? Mr. Pubudu, would you like to start?
Sure. Now, during this situation, people work from home. Of course, manufacturing related jobs, people can't work from home. They have to physically in the machine. So therefore, it's difficult for them to be away from machine and the manufacturing environment. But all the other people learn new skill very quickly and start working from home. That's from one side. Two, they reduce the dependency. Now, in an office environment, people have their supervisors, they have their executives, and then managers, and so on. But today, a lot of people have become independent. That's a good thing. With less supervision, I would say that people are operating at a different level, which is something that we have discovered. And also, all this time, we had so many meetings. Today, when we look at we are not having some of those meetings, but still productivity is very high. Why is that? Maybe because of people are used to meetings, but they have less time to work. So now the situation is such that people have more time to think than work. With that think differently, they have simplified their processes. So that's something that we have seen.
Mr. Pubudu, I think following the lockdown, we also have a number of YouTubers and influencers and bakers and all these sort of people who have engaged very much making use of themselves at home. So I think that independent criteria is a very important factor that everyone has made use of. Mr. Kiththi Perera,
a lot of people are helping their wives.
I know, I think it's a very positive approach. I hope you made a dish too. Mr. Kiththi Perera, how do you see this?
Well, I think that also I take this opportunity to answer your question. So you are asking what sort of special packages, products in terms of the broadband connectivity can be expected from SLT. Actually, we had a lot of discussions, and also we did a broad analysis on the face of society to understand in this situation what they really need. So we are happy to announce at this moment 3 key products. Those are, I would say, much awaited by the people. One is the work from home package, and this is for people who are working from home, and they can have a much more affordable way of broadband connectivity. And I suggest that you subscribe for SLT fiber and broadband. And I don't want to use this as a marketing platform, sorry about it. And then the second thing, for students, we are going to launch another package to students community, and they can have very affordable access to internet and collaborative platforms. And of course, SLT has already whitelisted so many learning platforms, and through which to this particular product also we plan to whitelist a couple of other key platforms. Third one, after studying, after working, you need a break, you need a rest. So sometime in the evening, you need to watch a movie, entertainment package. So that is also in the pipeline. So I think by end of next week, you will be able to start subscribing for those packages. That is the message from me. Thank you.
Thank you. And Yasas?
Yeah, if you look at the industry I'm coming from, general perception is apparel industry, you have to be physically there. I would say to great extent that has been challenged, right? Unless otherwise someone who really working with the machine, on the machine, there are many other jobs has been remotely very successfully done. As Pubudu mentioned, we have seen the effectiveness of, or the productivity of being distance, being working remotely. We have seen people are getting into the Microsoft Teams or the calls really on time. Sometimes when in the physical meeting at office good old days, right, getting people for a meeting on time is sometimes a question, right? We have seen a drastic change in that behavior, right? So, and also this whole social distance piece we have seen in the factory also. We expected some lapse in once we reopened the factory after 2.5 months. But amount of energy, the productivity we have got during the first month of the operation is very unique, right? We also, to a certain extent, surprised. So team has done a wonderful job understanding the need. On the other hand, I would say industry will move further on the journey of Industry 4.0, the machine people connectivity piece. If you look at the new machines in apparel coming in are digitally connected. So machine communicate with the operator, right? And also digitally enable the productivity, tracking, everything's the production manager, not necessary to be in the factory in future. So likewise, that journey will further accelerate with this pandemic. So today, it's kind of our physical presence is important, but I would say when the industry evolved with the time, looking at this experience we had during the last couple of months, the whole acceleration and the thinking pattern And also the supporting services also with that collaboration will make this industry into the next level in terms of digitally connected, where people can remotely contribute in the industry. And so those are the positives I see with this and where the industry is moving.
Right. We'd like to thank you on behalf of AIESEC, University of Perera for joining us in this very valuable discussion and giving great insights to all our students, viewers, as well as a very positive energy crowd who is watching this program as to how we can reboost Sri Lanka all over again. We'd like to thank Mr. Yasas Samarakoon, Director Technical and Head of Nirmana Product Development Center at MAS Holdings, Mr. Kiththi Perera, Chief Executive Officer, Sri Lanka Telecom, and Mr. Pubudu de Silva, Chief Executive Officer of Teejay Lanka Private PLC. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you so much for being with us today. To all our viewers who are watching us, thank you for being with us online till all this time and for sharing your views, insights. Take this message to Sri Lanka, take the message to the youth, help the communities. That's the positive message that we'd like to look at. And if you want to realign yourself, just look at the way things have been going, and you can restart yourself in order to bring back Sri Lanka as where it is, and also to take it positively in the future. We can make a difference if we are in it together. Until we see you next week for our next series of the webinar, we certainly hope you'll stay safe, have an enjoyable evening. You can pour yourself a good cup of tea or coffee and enjoy. Until we see you next time, take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Yasas. Thank you, Sharon.
Thank you.
Thanks,